swaying gently. I wanted to vomit, and I would have if I had not been frozen solid. That beautiful body presided over by that vicious brain made me sick. Her smile faded as I began to realize the truth. Her story was thin. Rambaugh, a mental, would have been able to play his blackmail game to the fine degree. He would have known when Martha's patience was about to grow short, if Martha's story were true. No blackmailer pushed his victim to the breaking point. And Rambaugh wouldn't have gone for me if this had been just a plain case of blackmail. No, by thinking deeply, Martha Franklin had engineered the death of Rambaugh, and she'd almost engineered the rubbing out of Scarman. A mental, Martha Franklin. A high-grade mental, capable of controlling her thoughts so that her cohorts could be led by the mind into doing her dirty work. My mind chuckled. I'd be gone before they caught up with Martha, but they'd catch up all right. She'd leave the apartment positively radiating her act of violence, and then the cops would have a catch. And you should see how a set of court mentalists go to work on a guilty party these days. Once they get the guy that pulled the trigger on the witness stand, in front of a jury consisting of mixed mentals and espers, with no holds barred, the court gets a full load of the killer's life, adventures, habits, and attitude, just before the guilty party heads for the readjustment chamber. Things were growing blacker. Waves of darkness clouded my mind, and I found it hard to think straight. My esper sense faded first, and as it faded I let it run once more over Martha's attractiveness, and found my darkening mind wishing that she were the girl I believed her to be, instead of the female louse she was. It could have been fun. But now I was about to black out from stun gun paralysis, and Martha was headed for the readjustment chamber where they'd reduce her mental activity to the level of a menial, sterilize her, and put her to work in an occupation that no man or woman with a spark of intelligence, ambition, or good sense would take. She would live and die a half-robot, alone and ignored, her attractiveness lost because of her own lackluster mind. And I'd been willing to go out and plug Scarman for her. Ha! And then she was at my side. I perceived her dimly, inconstantly, through the waves of blackness and unreality that were like the half-dreams that we have when lying a doze. She levered my frozen body over on its hard back and went to work on my chest. Her arms went around me and she squeezed. Air whooshed into my dead lungs, and then she was beating my breastbone black and blue with her small fists. Beat, 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 beat. I couldn't feel a thing, but I could dig the fact that she was hurting her hands as she beat on my chest in a rhythm that matched the beat of her own heart. I dug her own heartbeat for her, and she read my mind and matched the beat perfectly. Then I felt a thump inside of me and dug my own heart. It throbbed once, sluggishly. It struggled slowly. Then it throbbed to the beat of her hands, and the blackening waves went away. My frozen body relaxed, and I came down to rest on the floor like a melting lump of sugar. Martha dropped on top of my body and pressed me down. Her arms were around my chest as she forced air into my lungs. She beat my ribs sore when my heart faltered, and squeezed me when my breathing slowed. I felt the life coming back into me. It came in like the tide, with a fringe of needles and pins that flowed inward from the fingers and toes and scalp. Martha pressed me down on the carpet and kissed me, full, open-mouthed, passionate. It stirred my blood and my mind, and I took a deep, shuddering breath. I looked up into her soft blue eyes and said, "Thanks, slut." She kissed me again, pressing me down and writhing against me and obviously getting a kick out of my reaction. Then I came alive and threw her off with no warning. I sat up and swung a roundhouse right that clipped her on the jaw and sent her rolling over and over. Her eyes glazed for a moment, but she came out of it and looked pained and miserable. "You promised," she said huskily. "Promised?" "To kill Scarman." "Yeah?" "You thought how you'd kill Scarman for me, Steve." "Someday," I said flatly, "I may kill Scarman, but it won't be for you." She tried to claw me, but I clipped her again, and this time I made it stick. She went out cold, and she was still out like a frozen herring by the time Lieutenant Williamson arrived with his jetcopter squad to take her away. The last time I saw Martha Franklin, she was still trying to convince 12 Rhine scholars and true that any woman with a body as beautiful as hers couldn't possibly have committed any crime. She was good at it, but not that good. Funny, mental sensitives always think they're so damn superior to anyone else. End of Stop, Look, and Dig by George O. Smith.